Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. This is lecture number 29th. The name of the paper is Literary Criticism 1. The book we have been studying is On the Sublime by Longinus, and the topic for today is Tests of Sublimity. This lecture is specifically for the students of BS English 5th semester GDC PABI, and it is also for the students of those colleges which are affiliated with Abdul Wali Khan University. By test of the sublimity, we mean to apply different tests to a particular play or a poem because uh, at that time when Longinus was living, only plays and poems were written, and novels, for example, were not written. But this test nowadays can be applied to novels as well. It is applicable to play, poem, as well as novels. But we talk about the play or the poem because at that time when Longinus lived, poems and plays were written. So tests are applied to find out whether there is sublimity in the play or the poem, or there isn't any sublimity in the play or the poem. We will apply three tests. The first test is that poem or play would be sublime or will contain sublimity if it is always new and it is always fresh and it doesn't become stale. So this is the first test, that something which you read, a play or a poem, a play is to be watched, the poem is to be read. If you read a poem or watch a play, a drama, and it always looks new and fresh to you and it doesn't get stale, this would mean that it has sublimity in it. If a piece of literature loses its freshness after you read it um, once or twice, then it would not contain sublimity, because a sublime literature is the type of literature which, if read many times, with all the readings, it looks new, it looks fresh, and it gives you pleasure whenever you read it. In Elizabethan's age, we can give from that age the example of Shakespeare. This example, of course, could not be given by Longinus. He lived in 3rd century or in 1st century. But we can give the example of Shakespeare, that with every reading, he looks new, he looks fresh, and the wonders which his poetry, which his dramas contain, never cease or they never end. So Shakespeare is the one who has already passed this test, that he looks, whatever he has written looks new and fresh, and you can enjoy it every time you read it. There is freshness in it, and new enjoyment comes with every reading. So therefore, Shakespeare has sublimity in him and in his writing. Whenever we read him, whenever he read his dramas inspire us, his dramas elevates us every time, and his dramas move us every time, and he was ahead of his time. Uh, we have understood Shakespeare nowadays, but you can see that centuries have passed, and after centuries we have acquired knowledge, and now we are able to understand him. So this means that he was centuries ahead of us. If he lived in 16th century, now you can see how many hundred years have passed, and we have now acquired knowledge and we can now understand him. This means that he had already that knowledge which we have nowadays. So he was many centuries ahead of our knowledge, and he was a true genius in this regard. So therefore, as he passes this first test, he inspires us, he moves us, elevates us, and he is always new and fresh. Whenever he is read, he gives pleasure, his dramas give pleasure, and therefore he has sublimity in him, The freshness is not lost at any time, and the deeper you go, the more you learn from his dramas. So therefore, he has sublimity in his poems, in his dramas. He wrote sonnets. He was a great poet, of course, but he was a playwright, and though he wrote poems as well, and they were also great poems, and they had sublimity in them. Um, if we take the example of sea, ocean, for example, ocean is very deep and you cannot fathom its depth. The same is the case of a great poem. The poem with sublimity in it is like an ocean, and its depth cannot be found out, cannot be discovered. And if you go deeper into it, you find more and more wonders, and you cannot reach the final stage of its depth. So, this is the example of a great poem, the poem with sublimity in it. One of the best example is Coleridge's Kubla Khan. Kubla Khan gives you, the poem Kubla Khan gives you enjoyment with every reading, and therefore it is fathomless. As a result, Coleridge's Kubla Khan also has sublimity in it. So we can give these examples, though these are modern examples, but we can give these examples also. 3 टेस्ट हम लागू करेंगे सबलिमिटी मालूम करने के लिए कि किसी चीज में सबलिमिटी, किसी प्ले में, पोएम में सबलिमिटी है कि नहीं है। या आप अप्लाई कर सकते हैं किसी नॉवेल को भी और किसी भी पीस ऑफ वर्क को, लेकिन उस वक्त ज़माने में नॉवेल नहीं थे, तो इस वजह से हम प्ले और पोएम की बात कर रहे हैं। सबलाइम अगर किसी नज़म और प्ले में होगा तो वो हमेशा फ्रेश नज़र आएगा, हर रीडिंग के साथ आप इसको एंजॉय करेंगे और इसकी फ्रेशनेस ख़त्म नहीं होगी। एक रीडिंग दे, 2 रीडिंग दे, हर मर्तबा ये नई मीनिंग और नई एंजॉयमेंट आपको देगा। बेस्ट एग्जांपल शेक्सपियर की है। आपको पता होना चाहिए कि चूंकि लॉन्जाइनस तो फर्स्ट सेंचुरी में था और शेक्सपियर 16 सेंचुरी में, ये तो हम अपने से एग्जांपल दे रहे हैं, एग्जांपल्स उसने नहीं दिए हैं लॉन्जाइनस ने। तो शेक्सपियर को ले लें, हर मर्तबा आप उसको पढ़ते हैं तो नया और फ्रेश लगता है और आपको हैरान करता है, इंस्पायर करता है, एलिवेट करता है, और यही तो लॉन्जाइनस के मुताबिक सबलिमिटी की एक अलामत है। अब शेक्सपियर देखें, कितना ज़माना पहले, सदियों पहले गुजरा है, लेकिन हम सदियों बाद जो इल्म हासिल कर चुके हैं, हम उस पे उसको जज करते हैं तो वो ठीक लगता है, जिसका मतलब ये है कि सदियों पहले उसके पास ये इल्म मौजूद था, तो वो एक ट्रू जीनियस था और उसमें सबलिमिटी पाई जाती थी। वो अपने एज से आगे था, उसकी फ्रेशनेस ख़त्म नहीं होती और जितना आप डीप जाते हैं उतना ज़्यादा लर्निंग करते हैं। इसी तरीके से पोएम्स भी जो है, ग्रेट पोएम्स एक ओशन की तरह है और आप इसकी डेप्थ को नहीं पहुंच सकते। जितना गहरा जाएंगे और मज़ीद गहराई आपको नज़र आएगी। बेहतरीन एग्जांपल कॉलेज की कुबला खान है और शायद आपने कुबला खान पढ़ा हुआ है पोइट्री में, कोर्स में तो शामिल है। अगर नहीं पढ़ा, मैं इसके नोट्स और लेक्चर्स आपके साथ शेयर कर लूँगा। कुबला खान, तो ये आपका पहला टेस्ट हुआ, that poem and play has sublimity in it, which remains new and fresh for all the times. The second test is that poem or play is sublime or has sublimity in it, which is highly suggestive. Now, suggestiveness is the best quality in poetry, and most of it in poetry, but this is the worst quality in prose, because in prose one must be crystal clear, while in poetry, suggestiveness is one of the best qualities. So therefore, the second test, according to Longinus, is that sublime poetry will give you, poetry or poetic drama will give you many meanings. And different people reading the same drama will get the same drama or the same poem, they will get different meanings from them. So it is highly suggestive, and it gives food for thought, food for reflection. Whenever you read it or anybody reads it, he is put into thoughts, and he reflects on it and tries to find out what meaning he should get from it. So everybody gets his own meaning from such a poem which has suggestiveness in it and which has sublimity as a result of suggestiveness. So when you read a suggestive poem or suggestive poetry, different other ideas are created into your minds, and a chain of ideas is created into the reader's mind. Therefore, suggestive poetry is food for thought, food for reflection, and it gives you as many meanings as many readers we have. The final meaning cannot be understood by anyone, but everybody has to get his own meaning from the work. Therefore, sublime poetry, sublime play uh, is more than what it looks like, is more than what it appears. There is no limit to suggestions it gives. It suggests ideas, it suggests thoughts, and it suggests feelings, and they are of different types for different people. Normally, those writers who are not great writers, they just give statements. They state things, but great writers suggest the things. The statement is clear cut, but suggestion is not clear cut, because the reader has to get his own ideas from it. So, this is that second test which can be applied in order to find out whether the work has sublimity in it or does not have sublimity in it. So, this is that second test, suggestiveness. दूसरा टेस्ट सब्लिमिटी का, वो सजेस्टिव है. सजेस्टिवनेस ये है कि एक नज़म आप पढ़ते हैं और या पोइट्री पढ़ते हैं और वो हर रीडर को अपना मीनिंग देता है. तो ऐसी जो पोइट्री होती है उसको सजेस्टिव कहते हैं. हर बंदा इससे अपनी मीनिंग लेता है, हर बंदे के जहन में वो अलग सोच पैदा करता है, आइडियाज पैदा करता है, और वो सोचने में मजबूर हो जाता है कि इसकी कौन सी मीनिंग है. जो डेफिनेट मीनिंग है वो एक भी नहीं होता, बल्कि रीडर अपनी मीनिंग अपने जहन के मुताबिक उससे लेता है. तो जो सजेस्टिव नज़म है, ये जो नजर आता है उससे बहुत ज्यादा होता है, यानी उसमें मानी बहुत ज्यादा होते हैं, और इसकी सजेस्टिवनेस की कोई लिमिट नहीं होती. ये जो आइडियाज सजेस्ट करता है, जो थॉट्स सजेस्ट करता है, वो आइडियाज और वो थॉट्स और वो फीलिंग्स बेशुमार होते हैं. तो जो आम राइटर्स हैं वो बयान करते हैं चीज को. जो बेस्ट राइटर है वो सजेस्ट करता है चीज को, आइडियाज को अपनी नज़म में. तो लिहाजा कोई एक नज़म जो आप पढ़ते हैं वो बहुत सारी मीनिंग रख सकता है. मसलन ये कॉलेज का कुबला खान, अभी ये ऊपर वाले टेस्ट में भी इसकी एग्जाम्पल दी, लेकिन इसको जब आप पढ़ते हैं तो इसके बहुत सारे मीनिंग्स निकलते हैं. ये एक ड्रीम पोएम है, उसको ख्वाब में ये नजर आया था, लेकिन जब आप उसको पढ़ते हैं तो इज हाईली सजेस्टिव नज़म है. ये क्वालिटी भी इसमें पाई जाती है. तो ये दूसरा टेस्ट हुआ. द थर्ड टेस्ट इज that poem or that poetry has sublimity in it, which is moving and inspiring for all and always. This means that if you read a poem which has been read by different other people, and all the people have been inspired and moved, and Always it happens so that whoever reads it, in whatever place he is, in whatever age he is, and he is inspired and moved by that writing, then that writing must have sublimity in it. So it is inspiring and moving for all and always, for every type of age, for every type of person, and for all the times. Such a work must have sublimity in it. So time is something which cannot destroy a sublime poem, a sublime play, or whatever has sublimity in it. It passes the test of time, as Dr. Johnson also talks about the test of time. This test has been passed by Shakespeare, by Kubla Khan of Coleridge, and therefore it is said that time cannot destroy a genius and his work, a genius and sublimity. So everything changes with time. For example, habits change with time, customs change with time, political systems and social values, all of them change with time. And however, genius and sublimity of the genius, that is not destroyed by time. It is the same after centuries and it remains fresh. It has always the same type of effect. um, Different people have different views. They have different political views, religious views, professional views, social systems views, and different classes. But whenever they read that poem which has sublimity in it, all of them agree that the poem or the play is great. Then such a poem must have sublimity in it, which is read by different people belonging to different religion, belonging to different professions, to different classes, but all of them are inspired. So we say that such a play or such a poem has sublimity in it. Every age finds such a poem moving, such a poem as the one which transports you, which fills you with ecstasy, and which inspires you. Once again, we can give the example of Shakespeare. He is inspirational for all ages, he is inspirational for all times, he is inspirational for all the people and all the places. This is something universal in him. So it is a kind of universal test. This was the third test. ये तीसरा टेस्ट है और डॉक्टर जॉनसन ने भी शेक्सपियरियन क्रिटिसिज्म में इसका जिक्र किया है और इसको आप टेस्ट ऑफ टाइम कह सकते हैं कि जब कोई वर्क, कोई नज़म या कोई प्ले ये आपको मुतासिर करे, इंस्पायर करे और हर एज वाले लोगों को इंस्पायर कर चुका हो, हमेशा के लिए इंस्पायर कर चुका हो, मुख्तलिफ किस्म के लोगों को इंस्पायर कर चुका हो और कर रहा हो, तो फिर ये वर्क सबलिमिटी रखेगा। और अगरचे और चीज़ें वक्त के साथ ख़त्म हो जाती हैं, लेकिन अगर कोई वर्क सबलाइम है तो वो ख़त्म नहीं होगा। हैबिट्स चेंज होती हैं, रिवाज चेंज होते हैं, पॉलिटिकल सिस्टम चेंज होते हैं, सोशल वैल्यूज़ ये चेंज होते रहते हैं, लेकिन ये जो वर्क है ये चेंज नहीं होता, इसकी शोहरत में तब्दीली नहीं आती। तो फिर ये एक सबलाइम वर्क होगा जो हमेशा फ्रेश रहेगा, सदियों के बाद भी, और सब लोगों के लिए, मुख्तलिफ व्यूज़ रखने वालों के लिए, ख्वाह पॉलिटिकल व्यूज़ मुख्तलिफ हों, रिलीजन मुख्तलिफ हों, प्रोफेशंस मुख्तलिफ हों, लेकिन अगर नज़म आपको इंस्पायर करती है, इन सब को इंस्पायर करती है, तो फिर इसमें सबलिमिटी मौजूद होगी। ये सब एजेस के लिए मूविंग होता है, ये आपको ट्रांसपोर्ट करता है, ये आप में एक्सटेसी लाता है, ये आपको इंस्पायर करता है। और ये टेस्ट भी शेक्सपियर पास कर चुका है, क्योंकि वो सेंचुरीज के बाद भी बिल्कुल ताज़ा है, हम इसको पढ़ते हैं, बल्कि आजकल की बाज़ मूवीज भी उसके ड्रामों से माखूज हैं। तो ये 3 टेस्ट का जिक्र हमने किया सबलिमिटी मालूम करने के लिए। पहला टेस्ट ये है कि देखें ये पीस ऑफ वर्क हमेशा के लिए हर बार पढ़ने के बाद نیا اور فریش لگتا ہے کہ نہیں. اگر لگتا ہے تو یہ سبلائم ہے، اگر نہیں لگتا ہے تو یہ سبلائم نہیں ہے. دوسرا ٹیسٹ دیکھیں کہ اس میں سجیسٹیونیس ہے کہ نہیں. سجیسٹیونیس کا مطلب یہ ہے کہ کوئی ایک میننگ اس میں نہ ہو بلکہ ہر بندے کے لیے الگ سے میننگ دیتا ہو، تو پھر یہ سبلائم ہوگا. تیسرا ٹیسٹ یہ ہے کہ یہ آل ایجز کے لیے، آل پیپل کے لیے اور ہمیشہ کے لیے انسپائرنگ اور موونگ ہے کہ نہیں ہے. اگر ہے تو پھر یہ سبلیمیٹی رکھتا ہے. تو یہ 3 ٹیسٹ ہو گئے ہیں سبلائم معلوم کرنے کے لیے. تھینک یو اینڈ گڈ لک.